Hi guys! So today we are here to talk about the blue purple Luffy deck, and apparently it's possibly tier 0, so everybody has been very excited about this leader card. Previously I put up a rough deck list before I started playing the meta, but now that I've played a bit of it, I've realized that there are certain cards that needs to be in the deck for this deck to work against multiple meta leaders. So let's dive in to see what cards will be needed for this deck. So first of all, you want the RAM cards. I think no discussion about Bond Clay, no discussion about Gear 2 because these two cards are just really good for Blue Purple Doffy. Sometimes people will think that they want to put Zoro, but I feel like against Doflamingo, which is still going to be around for a while, they can just bounce back the Zoro. Therefore, I did not put Zoro but Bond Clay. Tendency nowadays is Blackbeard, they don't do Black Hole so early in the game, so you probably will get away with Bond Clay. The one that other people might want to play is the Lead Performer Disaster card because it allows you to draw one at cost 4. I just feel like because it's to die for gives you 2 Dawn. If opponent has 6k character, it's just superior. If you are starting turn 1, right, on your 3 Dawn turn, you play maybe Gear 2. So the next turn you have 6 Dawns. If your opponent plays a 6k card, you can ramp up to 8 Dawns, which means your leader effect activates the following turn. If you are starting turn 2, you're starting second. So the first card you play in your 4 cost Dawn turn would be Bond Clay. That will give you 5 Dawn. Next turn you have 7 Dawn, and then you can still play Is to Die For or Gear 2, activating your leader effect. So overall, I think these 3 are the best combination for ramp. On the same note, I place Rocinante and Nami. I want 6 of these cost 5 cards because if you go by what I explained just now, on the turn where you have 7 Dawn, if you ramp with Is to Die For to 8 Dawn, you have 5 Dawns left. And it's usually a bit of a waste to give your leader card all 5 Dawns and then attack. So you want to play either Nami to draw cards and blocker, or Rocinante to draw cards and give yourself the effect of 2 active Dawns when you end your turn. So both very powerful effects. So if you start first, and on your 6 Dawn turns, you get to play Is to Die For to ramp to 8 Dawns also. That means plus 2 Dawn. It's the same, you still have 5 Dawns to play. Towards the end, right, you can place many blockers and they will have its usefulness. But for Rocinante, because you have to discard an event card which you need to survive, and also it's only drawing and the effect don't stack, which means the setup to 2 of them is active. You don't need so many active Dawns at the end of your turn. So I just put 2 of them in my deck. Between your Charlotte Daifuku, which is this 2k counter vanilla card, versus this Sanji 2k card which you usually play from OP-11, I chose to use this Charlotte Daifuku in the end because I realized I almost never ever get to use the effect of the Sanji card. So it ends up just being a 6 cost 6k attack blocker card with 2k counter, which is still pretty good. But the problem is that while I can get this card from my leader effect, I cannot actually use this card together with Sanji's effect because the card name is Sanji. But for Charlotte Daifuku, I can, which gives me a 7k attack character when I play with Sanji. So I think what makes this deck good is Sanji. So you want to be able to use this effect as consistently as possible. So this 2k counter becomes a little bit inferior to me, especially when we have a lot of Charlotte Katakuri and also a lot of Nami blockers already in the deck. I don't think I need that many blockers. And also, even though you cannot search and get this card because it's a big man pirate and not a short hat card, right? By the effect where you can arrange what card you want to draw, most of the time if you want to draw a counter card, you can. So overall, I think I am picking Charlotte Daifuku over Sanji at the moment. And it also helps that this is a lot cheaper. So if you want to build your deck, this might be a better alternative, honestly. Okay, so you see, right, I have 3, 3, and 3 of this. I'll explain why I put so many of Monkey D. Luffy 8 cost later. But I think, honestly, I would have wanted 1:2 ratio for my 8 and 9 cost card so that I can use my Sanji effect. But what I found is that when I have too many of these big cards, right, in the early games, if I brick and I have too many of these in my hand, I actually have not enough counter to go about the game, even though I have Jet Gatling already. So overall, the ratio that I figured out is about 1:2. I have landed with this 333 number with my Sanji card, and so far it's working okay for me. I think Charlotte is really good to deal with your certain special effect card. So if you are playing against like Smoker and they are playing like Cavendish, Rocinante, using Charlotte can get rid of them quite easily. Towards the late game, these cards are actually not very useful. So putting it at the bottom of the line, allowing yourself to build up your field, which is the main thing about Blue Purple Luffy, will eventually help you to win the game. And the same goes for Monkey D. Luffy, where you can return a 4 cost card character to the owner's hand. Okay, why this is so important is because against Blackbeard, right, it does two things. One, Blackbeard isn't very good against rush cards, so it has the rush to deal with Blackbeard. Two, it doesn't KO, it bounces back into your hand, which means that this card almost very consistently deals with your Jesus Burgess card because it's a 4-cost card, but it cannot be KO by effect. This is not a KO, so it deals with that very well. Without this card, right, I think because of the amount of on-play effect you have in this deck, actually you don't do so well against Blackbeard. But with this card and also Katakuri, I think overall you can set up against Blackbeard and it's more or less like a 50-50 at least matchup. For this Charlotte Pudding card, I think this is a very important card in the deck. This helps with a lot of decks that are very good in this meta, namely your blue purple Luffy. So what you tend to realize is towards the end, because you can search, because Nami can draw, because Rosinante can draw, some people play the 9-cost Rush Luffy, which also allows you to draw. Your Gunman Giant allows you to draw. So their hand tends to be very big. And the person who plays Charlotte Pudding better to reduce the hand size tend to come out on top. Also against like your Bony card or even your Vocal card, they just end up having a very big hand. So what you want to do is to play Charlotte Pudding and disrupt their tempo so that you can win the game. So overall, this is the deck list for my blue purple Doffy deck. So let's get down to some gameplay. Alright, so against Smoker, I think I like to go second. Okay, so I have both of it. I can actually ramp to 8 very soon. On my next turn I have 8, then I can play the Rosinante. I'll take this. Okay, Nami is a bit better than Rosinante because I have too many of the Big Mom cards in my hand which I want to use with Sanji. So it's not at the top of my deck. I'll block this with Rosinante then. This will be a problem later on. So I'm getting rid of it. Even though you can give him one extra card, but we have Charlotte Pudding, so maybe we can do something about it later. Okay, Ibari. Okay, it got rid of my Nami card completely. This I definitely have to block because it's a banisher. I think I will counter it. Okay, so we can now use our card action here. And I think I will pick a card with counter. And then I want the Nami card. This turn, I think I will go with... I can go with Big Mom first actually. Because I do have these two counters with me. So I'm not afraid of the -1 Dawn. Okay. And then we go Sanji. One card to trash. I think I'll go with Katakuri. So 6 cost or lower, right? Okay. Just get rid of Smoker. Smoker is too strong. Okay, key is out. $8K. And a 6K. I will take this. Use card action. I will take Luffy and place at the bottom. Okay, so what we want is to use this card to get rid of the Rosinante. Okay. It's a risk I'm gonna take. Alright. Then I will attack with my leader card. So this is why I think that this deck can deal with a lot of the green deck, because there's too many ways you can get rid of the Rosinante cards. Oh, he didn't manage to get rid of my Big Mom. That's great. Okay, Sanji. And this is pretty good. Right, so I can actually... one card to trash. Right, so they give up. The amount of firepower and how many cards I can deal with for this deck is just too insane. So with no cards left in his hand, he gave up. So this is how powerful Blue Purple Luffy is against green decks. One card to trash. Go back. Okay. 7k attack. I think he's thinking about putting down another Burgess. Yep. I mean, it is a 1k counter, pretty good. I'm going to attack with this and see what he does. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Then I will place this vanilla out. Yep. He could try to use the cost reduction to get rid of one of my cards, but I don't know how that will work for him. Okay, so he decided to do another Blackbeard. I'll take this actually. I think he lost because he used 2 to attack me. I don't think he has much left. And then we get Monkey D. Luffy. Just in case you want the Gum Giant. 7k. Okay. Another 7k. We'll place this down. Yep, we won. So overall, right, they have 4 Blackbeards. They had 4 Blackbeards and I still won. That's because there's just too much firepower and survivability for this deck. One matchup that we can never miss would be the Doffy matchup. So let's see how it goes. So I'm starting first, which is okay, since I have a searcher. Okay, and I get the Sanji, so this is very helpful. Okay, draw a card. Okay, Jinbei and Hancock. So 6k is out. It was a good choice to hold this back. Okay, we'll play is to die for here. And before, we can now play Born Clay and we are at 8. The next turn is very dangerous. Okay, he doesn't have Blackbeard, so that's why he's being a bit passive. Okay, another Jinbei. Revo. Okay, I guess we can get... We shouldn't pick anybody actually. Yeah, we shouldn't pick anybody. 2-way counter is definitely good. And then we'll do this. Okay, deploy card. Card to trash. We're going with Giant. And then we'll send back one of their Revo card. Because this has a very good on-play effect, so that's why I'm doing that. Lilin is here, so I get the Gatling. So first up is Shinbei. For safety's sake, I will go for Jinbei again, because I really need to get rid of some of his attackers' bodies. Okay, I'm going to play this card. Deploy Big Mom. Gain 1 life. So you are going to the bottom of the deck. You're going back. And you are getting an amp. So essentially I managed to clear his entire field, but I have no cards left, which is really scary. And he got a Jinbei. Super fortunate, this guy. Very fortunate. Okay, definitely I'm getting the blocker here. Let's do this, actually. 1 card to trash. Target will be you. You try. Well, he could have enough, or he doesn't have enough. Well, so I guess because I bounced back the Weevil, which doesn't have counter, so actually in his hands he doesn't have a lot of counter card, and overall I win. So I think for Blue Purple Luffy, right, is if you can survive to the late stage, you will most likely win, because you can then swarm the field very quickly with characters that have a higher power than Doflamingo. Overall, I think that Blue Purple Luffy is a very strong leader card. I think it matches up well against all of the meta leaders like Doffy, Blackbeard, your Smoker. So be prepared to see a lot of Blue Purple Luffy in the current meta. This also means that we have to prepare for the mirror. I think apart from playing Charlotte Pudding to manage hand size, I think you can also start first and then try to ram as quick as possible, because in the Blue Purple Luffy mirror matchup, the person who strikes first tends to win. So you want to be the one going first and ram as quickly as possible. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we get to play more Blue Purple Luffy in the current meta. See you next time. Bye.